The air inside Ganya temple is thick enough to choke on. It smells of old sandalwood incense, damp stone, and the decaying dreams of 1,000 forgotten women. The monotonous sound of the wooden fish echoes off the walls. Toke, toke, toke. It is a relentless rhythm designed to numb the mind. It is a sound designed to strip away identity until nothing remains but a vessel for prayer. For the hundreds of women kneeling on the cold floor, this is the grave of their youth. They were the concubines of the former emperor. Now they are ghosts in saffron robes, waiting to turn into dust. They weep for their lost lives. They pray for the afterlife. They accept their fate as fallen leaves in winter. But there is one woman who does not pray for salvation. She prays for power. Wu Zetian. She kneels among the sheep, but her eyes are clear and terrifyingly alive. While others recite scriptures to cleanse their sins, she is rewriting her destiny in her head. She understands a truth that the monks ignore. The Buddha sits on a lotus throne, but that throne is built on the suffering of the world. To rise, one must be willing to step on the faces of others. She spends her days watching. She sees the corruption in the abbess. She sees the secret desires of the pilgrims. She realizes that even in this holy sanctuary, influence is the only currency that matters. And right now, she is bankrupt. But she is patient. She is a hunter who knows how to wait for the wind to change. But she is not just waiting for a miracle. She is analyzing the political landscape of the empire outside these walls. The new Emperor Li Zhi is weak. He is a young man surrounded by powerful old ministers like Zhongsun Wuji, who treat him like a child. He is lonely. He is politically isolated. He doesn't just need a lover. He needs an ally. He needs a weapon. When Emperor Li Zhi visits the temple to offer incense, he expects to see nuns. Instead, he sees a mirror. Wu Zetian positions herself perfectly, a fragile beauty amidst the gray austerity. She captures his gaze. In that brief stolen moment, she does not offer him piety. She offers him understanding. She looks at him not as a king, but as a man burdened by the weight of the heavens. It is a calculated vulnerability. It is the bite. She is summoned back to the palace. The gates of the forbidden city close behind her. She has escaped the temple, but she has entered a viper's nest. The inner court is a battlefield dominated by two titans. Empress Wang is the dignified wife from a prestigious noble clan who commands respect through bloodline. Consort Zhao is the arrogant favorite who commands the emperor's heart through passion. They look at Wu Zetian with disdain. To them, she is a useful tool, a distraction. They think they are using a dog to hunt a fox. They do not realize the dog is rabid. Wu Zetian plays her part with terrifying precision. Sei is humble. She is obedient. She serves the empress with the devotion of a slave. She lowers her head to hide the fire in her eyes, but in the shadows, she is working. Before she strikes, she must secure the ground. She begins to build a network of eyes and ears. She targets the invisible people of the palace. The maids who empty the chamber pots, the eunuchs who light the candles, the guards who stand silently at the doors. These are people who have been ignored and abused by the highborn empress. Wu Zetian offers them something they have never had: dignity and silver. She turns the palace walls into her own skin. She feels every vibration. She learns exactly when the empress sleeps and when Consort Zhao throws a tantrum. Information is her shield. Deception is her sword. In 654, Adwa Wu Zetian gives birth to a daughter, Princess An Ding. The palace rejoices. A child is a symbol of hope, but for Wu Zetian, this child is the final piece of a deadly puzzle. She looks at the political board. As long as Empress Wang sits on the throne, Wu Zetian will always be a concubine. She will always be second best. She needs a move that can shatter the empress's reputation beyond repair. But she has no weapon. She only has a cradle. It is a quiet afternoon. The sunlight filters through the silk curtains. Empress Wang visits the newborn princess. She holds the baby. She coos at it. She leaves. The room falls silent. The maids are dismissed. Wu Zetian steps out from the shadows. She walks to the cradle. The room is silent. A mother looks at her sleeping child. Warm, breathing, innocent. A normal heart would break at the thought of harm. But Wu Zetian operates on a different plane of existence. She does not see a daughter. She sees a key that fits the lock of the throne room. If the child lives, she is just a princess, a bargaining chip for a future marriage alliance. If the child dies, the empress falls. The calculation is instantaneous. It is cold. It is absolute. Wu Zhao stands over the cradle. The silk curtains sway gently in the breeze. A shadow falls over the small face. The room seems to hold its breath. There is no struggle. There is no violence that leaves a mark on the skin. Just a heavy, suffocating silence that reclaims the room. The rhythm of breathing stops. The future is rewritten in a single moment of stillness. Wu Zhao arranges the blanket. She smooths the wrinkles. She sits by the cradle and waits. When Emperor Li Zhi arrives, the curtain raises on the greatest performance of the 10th dynasty. Wu Zhao lifts the blanket. She touches the cold skin. The scream that tears from her throat shatters the peace of the palace. It is primal. It is terrifying. She collapses. She becomes a broken thing. A mother destroyed by grief. Who was here? She demands. Her voice cracks with manufactured agony. Who touched her? The servants tremble in fear. They give the only answer they know. The Empress was just here. The trap snaps shut. The Emperor stares at the small, lifeless body. His mind reels. He cannot conceive that a mother would harm her own flesh and blood. It is a biological impossibility in his worldview. Therefore, the alternative must be true. The jealous Empress Wang, threatened by Wu Zhao's fertility, has murdered the princess in a fit of spite. Wu Zhao has weaponized the sanctity of motherhood. She has used the emperor's own morality against him. He looks at her, so fragile, so devastated. His heart hardens against his wife. He does not see a monster. He sees a victim that he must avenge. The fallout is catastrophic. Empress Wang is accused of witchcraft and murder. Consort Chao is dragged down with her. The emperor orders their imprisonment. But for Wu Zhao, prison is not enough. A living enemy is always a threat. She orders a punishment that will echo through history. She commands that their limbs be severed. She orders them to be confined within large vats of brewing wine. She stands over the vats. She looks down at the women who once looked down on her. They are no longer queens or consorts. They are broken figures trapped in a prison of alcohol and darkness. Let their bones get drunk to the marrow, she whispers. It is a punishment designed not just to kill, but to erase, to turn human beings into objects, to strip them of their dignity until they are nothing but memories of pain. It is a message to the entire court. There are no lines she will not cross. She has secured the title of Empress. The crown is heavy on her head, but her hands are steady. She has paid the price in blood. She has entered the Tao of power. But as she sits on the Phoenix throne, glancing at the Emperor, she realizes the game is far from over. He is still the Son of Heaven. He is still the one with the final say. And he is weak. He suffers from blinding headaches. He is easily exhausted. She looks at him, not with love, but with the evaluating gaze of an architect looking at a crumbling foundation. Is the host. She is divine, and it is time to wrap herself around him so tightly that he can no longer breathe without her permission. The palace is silent, but it is not peaceful. It is the silence of a held breath before a storm. Wu Zhao now sits on the Phoenix throne as the Empress of China. The traces of her daughter and her rivals have been scrubbed from the floorboards, but the memory remains in the minds of the court. The ministers look at her with fear veiled as respect. They see a woman who defied nature to seize power. But Wu Zhao looks back at them and sees only obstacles. She has won the title, but she has not yet won the war. The true power still resides in the hands of the Emperor Li Zhi and his circle of old gray-bearded advisors. These men, led by the Emperor's uncle Zhongsang Wuji, view Wu Zhao as a temporary anomaly, a natural disaster that will pass. They believe that a woman's influence is like a flower. It blooms, it withers, and then the men return to the serious business of ruling the world. They are wrong. Wu Zhao is not a flower. She is ivy, and she is about to overtake the oak. She changes her game. Physical removal is too messy. She needs something quieter, something that eats the soul without leaving a mark. She does not need to eliminate the Emperor. She needs to become him. The opportunity arises not with a sword but with a headache. Emperor Li Zhi begins to suffer from a debilitating illness. Blinding headaches, dizziness, and temporary loss of vision strike him down. The pain is excruciating. It leaves him bedridden, unable to read the mountains of petitions that arrive daily from every corner of the empire. A normal wife would offer soup and cold compresses. Wu Zhao offers a solution to his burden. She sits by his bedside. Her voice is low and soothing. She picks up a scroll. She reads it to him. She explains the complex political disputes in simple, clear terms. She asks for his decision, e whispers Italiano. She writes it down in vermilion ink. It begins as an act of service. Efficient, helpful, the Emperor feels supported, not realizing he has just handed over the keys to his mind. Wu Zhao quickly realizes that whoever reads the information controls the reality. She reads the scrolls, but she decides which words reach his ears and which remain silent. If a general reports a victory, she can frame it as a minor success to keep the military humble. If a minister criticizes her, she can frame it as an insult to the emperor himself. She becomes the lens through which Li Zhi sees the world. Slowly and imperceptibly, she begins to adjust the focus. She isolates him. She whispers in his ear during his moments of weakness. She points out that the old ministers like Zhengsum Wuji do not respect him. She reminds him that Zhengsum Wuji opposed his father's wishes. She paints the loyal uncle not as a guardian, but as a puppet master trying to control the strings. He treats you like a child, she whispers. He thinks the throne belongs to him. Paranoia is a seed that grows best in the dark, and Wu Zhao waters it every day. The emperor begins to see enemies in his oldest friends. He gives Wu Zhao the authority to remove them. The fall of Zhengsum Wuji is a masterclass in political dismantling. Wu Zhao does not arrest him immediately. She instructs her new allies to accuse him of treasonous whispers. They claim he is plotting a rebellion. It is a lie, but to a paranoid emperor, it sounds like the truth. Songsun Wuhi, the man who put Li Zhi on the throne, finds himself isolated. His titles are stripped one by one. His friends are exiled. Finally, he is banished to the remote lands of the south. But exile is not enough for Wu Zhao. A living symbol of the old regime is dangerous. History records that he was forced to take the final step. He was presented with a choice: dishonor or the end. He chose to drink the cup of fate, believing he had failed his ancestors, never realizing he was simply outplayed by a shadow. The old god is dismantled, not by armies, but by the emperor's own signature. A signature guided by Wu Zhao's hand. With the old ministers gone, the court is filled with new men. Men from lower families. Men who owe their careers to Wu Zhao. Men who know who really holds the brush. But the emperor is not dead yet. And in 664 AD, the parasite faces a violent rejection from the host. The emperor has a moment of clarity. Perhaps the headaches fade for a day. Perhaps a loyal eunuch manages to whisper the truth to him. He realizes that he is losing his empire to his wife. He feels the ivy tightening around his throat. Panic sets in. He summons a minister named Shangguan Yi. In secret, they draft an edict to depose Empress Wu, to strip her of power, to lock her away in the cold palace. It is a desperate move, and it is a fatal mistake. They forget that the walls have ears. Wu Zhao spies alert her immediately. This is the moment where a lesser villain would explode in rage. A lesser villain would storm the room with guards. Wu Zhao does the opposite. She stops at the door. She takes a deep breath. She lowers her head, hiding the fire in her eyes, and becomes exactly what he needs to see. A victim, she walks into the emperor's chamber. The ink on the deposition decree is still wet. The emperor and the minister freeze. They look like naughty children caught by a strict mother. Wu Zhao does not scream. She does not threaten. She looks at the emperor with eyes full of sorrow. She asks him why. "I have handled the burdens you could not bear," she says softly. "I have purged your enemies. I have ruined my own name to protect yours. And this is my reward." She flips the narrative instantly. She is not the usurper. She is the martyr. She makes the emperor feel guilty for trying to reclaim his own power. She attacks his conscience with the precision of a surgeon. The emperor, weak-willed and terrified of confrontation, collapses. He cannot look her in the eye. He points a trembling finger at Shangguan Ye. "It was him," the emperor stammers. "It was his idea. He tricked me." In that second, the emperor destroys his own authority. He sacrifices his loyal minister to save himself from an awkward conversation with his wife. Wu Zhao looks at Shangguan Yi. Her expression is unreadable. The minister knows he is a dead man. He is dragged away to meet his end. His family is cast into servitude. The coup is over. The emperor has capitulated. He has admitted implicitly that he cannot rule without her. From that day forward, the pretense drops. Wu Zhao no longer hides in the shadows of the nursery or the bedroom. She demands a seat at the court. They hang a pearl curtain behind the emperor's throne. Wu Zhao sits behind it. This is the era of two sages. It is a sight that shocks the world. Foreign envoys from Japan, Silla, and the western regions come to Chang'an and see a phenomenon that defies old tradition. They see the emperor, sickly and slumped on the dragon chair. And behind him, through the shimmering veil of pearls, they see the silhouette of a woman. When the ministers present a petition, they bow to the emperor. But they wait for the voice from behind the curtain to answer. Her voice is calm, decisive, and absolute. The empire flourishes under her unseen hand. She promotes agriculture, reduces taxes for the farmers, and opens the civil service exams to men of talent, regardless of their birth. The common people begin to whisper that perhaps the mandate of heaven has shifted. Wu Zhao is no longer just a wife or an empress. She has become the shadow of the throne itself. She uses the emperor as a divine shield. His body occupies the throne, but her mind drives the machine. But as her power solidifies, a new threat emerges. Not from the enemies outside, but from the bloodline within. Her son, the crown prince, Li Hong. Li Hong is everything a Confucian scholar dreams of. He is kind. He is benevolent. He is loved by the people. He visits the soldiers on the frontiers. He distributes grain to the poor from his own treasury. And he hates what his mother has become. He remembers the sisters who vanished. He remembers the ministers who were purged. He represents the greatest danger to Wu Zhao, because he is good. In a world of wolves, a sheep who leads the herd is a liability. The conflict reaches a breaking point over the daughters of Consort Zhao. These two princesses have been locked away in the inner palace for years, unwed and forgotten. Li Hong, moved by compassion, petitions his parents to release them. He argues for mercy. He argues for family duty. Wu Zhao sits behind her curtain, listening to her son speak. A normal mother would be proud of such a virtuous child. But Wu Zhao is not a normal mother. She is a political entity. She looks at Li Hong, and she does not see a son. She sees a rival faction. She sees a weakness that will undo everything she has built. Benevolence, she thinks, is a luxury for those who do not have to hold a knife. If Li Hong ascends to the throne, he will bring back the exiled ministers. He will restore the reputation of Empress Wang. He will undo the fear that holds the empire together. He confuses mercy with strength. She realizes that as long as the Li family bloodline remains strong, her power is borrowed. She is merely a regent. If the emperor dies tomorrow, Li Hong will ascend. He will erase her legacy. That is unacceptable. She does not want to influence the game anymore. She wants to own the board. To do that, she must break the spirit of the court completely. She needs a tool that doesn't just remove obstacles, but obliterates the very thought of resistance. She needs to systematize fear. She picks up a brush and writes a name on a piece of paper. A name that will become synonymous with the darkest nights of the 10th dynasty. Li Zhi, the architect of fear, is about to be summoned, and the manual of entrapment is about to be opened. The year is 675 AD. The gardens of the imperial palace are in full bloom, but the scent of flowers cannot mask the smell of decay that hangs over the 10th dynasty. Crown Prince Li Hong is a problem, not because he is rebellious, but because he is righteous. He counters his mother's ambition with morality. He challenges her cruelty with mercy. To the common people, he is a savior. To Wu Zhao, he is a target. She looks at her son and sees the undoing of her life's work. If he takes the throne, he will dismantle the network she has built. He will bring back the men he will turn her into a footnote, a retired empress dowager stripping petals in a cold garden. The logic of the apex predator is simple. When a branch grows crooked, you do not argue with it. You cut it off. It happens during a visit to the Hunyuan Hall, a family banquet. The atmosphere is tense, but civil. The crown prince is offered a cup of wine. Drinks? History does not record a struggle. There are no assassins jumping from the rafters. There is only a young man, healthy and vibrant, suddenly clutching his chest. The light in his eyes fades rapidly. He collapses at the table amidst the spilled wine and the horrified gasps of the servants. Li Hong, the hope of the dynasty, is dead at 23. The official announcement cites a sudden illness. The court knows better. They look at the mother sitting at the head of the table, her face a mask of composed grief. They see no tears that reach the eyes. They realize with a chilling certainty that the safety of the womb offers no protection against the ambition of the throne. The death of Li Hong is the turning point. The last barrier of morality has been breached. The emperor, sick and broken, weeps for his son, but dares not ask the question that burns in his throat. He knows the answer would destroy him. With the benevolent prince, gone, Wu Zhao moves to fill the vacuum. She realizes that love and respect are unreliable currencies. Fear, however, is a standard that never fluctuates. She needs to control not just the actions of her subjects, but their thoughts. She needs to create an environment where resistance is impossible, because trust has been obliterated. She summons Lei Junchen. Lei Junchen is not a general. He is not a scholar. He is a low-born thug with a genius for malice. Wu Zhao sees in him a perfect tool. A dog that will bite anyone, even its own tail, if commanded. She promotes him. She gives him carte blanche to root out treason. To hunt down traitors, they do not need an army. They only need a box. A terrifying invention appears in the public square. The copper box? This large bronze artifact is designed so that anyone can drop a letter inside but no one can take it out. It is a direct line to the Empress. She invites the citizens of the empire to report on each other. Report a traitor. The decree says, and you shall be rewarded. If the accusation is false, you shall not be punished. It is a masterstroke of psychological warfare. Overnight, the social fabric of the 10th dynasty unravels. Neighbors report neighbors to settle old grudges. Debtors report creditors to wipe out debts. Servants report masters. The copper box fills up every day, and the dungeons where Li Zhi operates fill up every night. Inside these dark chambers, Li Zhi writes his masterpiece, the Manual of Entrapment. This is not a book of laws. It is a manual on how to manufacture guilt. It teaches his interrogators a terrifying truth. Innocence is not a defense. It is merely a lack of imagination on the part of the accuser. If you want to condemn a man, the manual suggests, first accuse him of a crime so heinous he cannot prove a negative. Then apply pressure until he agrees with you. The methods are industrial. They do not just punish prisoners, they break them. They use sleep deprivation, sensory overload, and psychological breaking points. They force prisoners to implicate others to stop the suffering. A single accusation creates a web that ensnares hundreds. The target is the Li royal family. Wu Zhao knows that as long as the emperor's cousins, uncles, and brothers live, her legitimacy is threatened. She unleashes her dogs. The princes of the blood are dragged from their palaces in the middle of the night. Men who commanded armies, men of noble birth, are thrown into the dark cells of the secret police. They are humiliated. They are reduced to nothing. One by one, the branches of the Temsing family tree are pruned. Prince Li Shan, the new crown prince who replaced Li Hong, is accused of plotting rebellion and exiled to the remote frontiers. The emperor's cousins are accused of conspiracy. They confess, because everyone confesses eventually. The court falls into a terrified silence. Ministers go to work in the morning not knowing if they will return home at night. They keep their heads down, eyes fixed on the floor, terrified that a single glance might be misinterpreted by the woman behind the pearl curtain. Wu Zhao watches from her high seat. She sees the fear. She drinks it in. It is the only air she can breathe. She has achieved total control. She has replaced the mandate of heaven with the mandate of silence. But the final lock on the door is still the emperor himself. As long as Li Zhi draws breath, she is still technically a subject. In 683 AD, the inevitable happens. Emperor Gaizong, the man who loved her, the man who raised her up, the man she hollowed out and used as a shield for 30 years, finally succumbs to his illness. He dies. The shield is gone. Wu Zhao stands alone at the pinnacle of power. Her third son, Li Zhi, ascends the throne as Emperor Zhongzong. He is young, he is foolish. He thinks being emperor means he can finally do as he pleases. He tries to promote his father-in-law to a high position, defying his mother's wishes. I am the son of heaven, he boasts. I can give the whole empire away if I want to. It is a childish outburst, but to Wu Zhao, it is treason. And this time she has an unexpected ally. Chancellor Pei Yan, the highest minister in the land, hears the emperor's reckless words. In a normal dynasty, Pei Yan would counsel the emperor. But this is not a normal dynasty. Pei Yan knows where the true power lies. He reports the incident immediately to Wu Zhao. Wu Zhao does not hesitate. She marches into the throne room with her imperial guards, and Pei Yan by her side. The emperor is mad, she declares. He wishes to give the empire away. I am saving the dynasty from a fool. The young emperor looks at his chancellor for support, but finds none. Pei Yan, the man sworn to protect him, stands silent as the guard sees the son of heaven. Li Zhi is stripped of his robes. He is demoted to a common prince and exiled. The shock is absolute. In the history of China, no dowager has ever deposed a reigning emperor. It is a violation of every sacred tradition. But the guards obey her. The ministers watch in silence, terrified of the copper box, terrified of Li Zhi. Wu Zhao places her youngest son, Li Dan, on the, but this time she does not even pretend to let him rule. She locks him in a separate wing of the palace. He is a prisoner in his own home. He is a rubber stamp with a pulse. With the puppet emperor locked away, Wu Zhao turns her attention to the loose ends. The exiled prince, Li Xian, waiting in the provinces, receives a final decree. He is forced to end his own journey. The purge is complete. The 10th dynasty exists in name only. The reality is the Zhou dynasty waiting to be born. Wu Zhao looks at the empty throne. She looks at the cowering ministers. She realizes she has outgrown the need for puppets. She is 67 years old. Most women her age are grandmothers telling stories by the fire. Wu Zhao is preparing to burn the history books. She does not want to be the power behind the throne anymore. She wants to be the power on the throne. She wants to be the emperor. Not an empress consort. Not a regent. But Wangdi, the holy, divine. But to do that, she must commit the ultimate blasphemy. She must rewrite the laws of the universe which say that only a man can hold the mandate of heaven. She calls for her scholars. She calls for the monks, specifically her lover, the mysterious monk, Zui. Find me a prophecy, she commands. Find me a sutra that says a woman shall rule the world. They search the ancient texts, and miraculously, exactly as she commanded, they find the Great Cloud Sutra. It speaks of a female deity, the incarnation of Maitreya Buddha, who will descend to earth to lead the world into a golden age. Wu Zhao smiles. She orders the sutra to be copied and distributed to every temple in the land. She is not usurping the throne from men. She is fulfilling the will of the Buddha. If the gods will not give her permission, she will manufacture the gods. The year is 690 AD. The transformation is complete. Wu Zhao stands on the balcony of the imperial city. Below her, thousands of banners flutter in the wind, emblazoned, not with a character for temps, but with a new character, Zhou. She has done the impossible. She has declared herself the holy and divine emperor. She is no longer a regent, a wife, or a mother. She is the dragon itself. She wears the yellow robes that were forbidden to her sex. She wears the imperial crown. She looks out at a world that she has bent to her will through sheer, unadulterated force of personality. At 67 years old, she has reached the summit. The air up here is thin and cold, but it is the only air she cares to breathe. But the Tao of power dictates that every peak must have a descent, and for Wu Zetian, the descent is not a slide, but a slow, crumbling decay. Time, the one enemy she cannot execute, begins to lay siege to her. As she enters her 80s, the iron grip she held over the court begins to tremble. Her body fails. Her eyes grow dim. And with physical weakness comes a terrifying psychological regression. The woman who once outsmarted the greatest statesman of her age begins to seek comfort in the arms of sick. She becomes infatuated with the young brothers, the young, handsome, and incredibly corrupt courtiers who engage her in feasts and pleasures while the empire burns outside the gates. They become her gatekeepers. Ministers who wish to see the emperor must bribe the young brothers. The court watches with horror. They see the holy divine emperor reducing herself to a senile old woman distracted by pretty boys. But even in her decay, Wu Zetian is dangerous. She knows her time is ending. She faces the ultimate strategic dilemma. The succession. If she passes the throne to her nephew of the Wu clan, she continues her own dynasty, the Zhou. But she knows history. A nephew does not worship his aunt in the ancestral temple. If the Wu clan takes over, she will be forgotten, her spirit left to starve in the afterlife. If she passes the throne back to her son, the exiled Li Zhi, she admits defeat. She restores the Temp's dynasty and erases her own Zhou dynasty. It is the calculation of a lifetime. Ego versus legacy. In a moment of supreme pragmatism, she chooses legacy. She recalls Li Zhi from exile. She reinstates him as crown prince. She chooses to be the mother of the 10th Ratatan, the failed founder of the Zhou Eben in defeat. She dictates the terms. But the court cannot wait for her to die naturally. The terror of the Zhongbros has become too much. In 705 AD, the Dragon Gate coup takes place. It is a bitter irony. The coup is led by the very men she The soldiers surround her bedchamber in the Hall of Longevity. They kill the Zheng brothers in the courtyard. The blood splashes onto the gallery where she once walked. The doors open. Her son, Li Zhi, and the ministers enter. They find an 81-year-old woman, stripped of her makeup, stripped of her wig, lying frail in bed. For the first time in half a century, she is powerless, or is she? The ministers demand her abdication. They expect to fight. They expect the dragon to breathe fire one last time. But Wu Zetian looks at them. She looks at her son, the man she broke and exiled, now trembling as he demands her crown. She does not scream. She does not beg. She simply nods. "I see," she says, her voice a dry rasp. "So be it." She is moved to a smaller palace. She spends her final months staring at the changing seasons. She says nothing. She offers no defense of her reign. She offers no apologies for the blood on her hands. On her deathbed, she issues her final decree. It is a masterstroke of psychological manipulation that will puzzle historians for 1,000 years. She orders that her title of emperor be removed. She asks to be buried not as a ruler, but as Emperor Zetian, the wife of Emperor Gazong. Why? A shallow analysis suggests regret. A romantic analysis suggests she wanted to be with her husband. But the dark analysis suggests one final victory. By burying herself as the Empress of the Temps, she ensures that her grave will be tended to by the Temps emperors forever. She forces the dynasty she hijacked to worship her for eternity. She infiltrates their lineage permanently. She does not die as a usurper. She dies as an ancestor. And then, she commands the construction of her memorial stele. In the kindling mausoleum, there stands a massive slab of stone. It towers over the visitors. By tradition, it should be carved with thousands of characters, praising her virtues, her conquests, her administration. It should tell the world why she was great. But the stele is blank. There is not a single word carved into the stone. The wordless stele. Why? Some say she believed her deeds were too great for words. Some say she felt guilty. But look closer. Look at it through the eyes of the architect of fear. A written history can be criticized. A written history defines you, limits you to the words on the page. By leaving the stone blank, Wu Zetian refuses to be defined. She forces every generation that follows to project their own fears, their own admiration, and their own questions onto her. She creates a void that history must struggle to fill. She knows that people will argue about her. They will call her a monster. They will call her a genius. They will call her a feminist icon. They will call her a tyrant. By saying nothing, she controls the conversation forever. It is the ultimate act of narcissism. It is the ultimate act of control. She denies us the satisfaction of knowing her final thoughts. She leaves us with only the silence. The wind blows through the Qinleng mausoleum. It howls past the headless statues of foreign envoys. It brushes against the rough surface of the wordless stele. Wu Zetian is gone. The Zhou dynasty is dust. But the silence she left behind is louder than any emperor who ever lived. She played the game of power. She broke every rule. She sacrificed her children. She bathed the court in blood. And in the end, she won the only prize that matters to a true demon. She became immortal.